I think one of the ways that a large classroom can feel not so large is when that little magic line between where the podium is and where the students are sitting, it evaporates. And so I do like to move around the classroom. I do that in a number of different times, either just while I'm speaking. If I'm asking a question, I might just start roaming around the classroom to ask. And the nice thing about that is that sometimes then someone who's less apt to just shout out their answer, when you're walking up and you're now right beside them, they're more apt to just say their answer to you. And then you can say, oh, okay, I heard someone over here, this is what they had to say. And I can then make their voice loud for the rest of the group by sharing what they have to say. The other opportunity that I have a chance to really roam around the classroom and get a little one-on-one conversations is when students are engaged in some sort of activity. So in anatomy, students bring their body to class, which is really helpful because they can move it, they can palpate it. I'm actually amazed that not all anatomy classes include some degree of movement and palpating, but I figure, hey, they're bringing it to class, why not take advantage? And so we often will stop, especially in our fall term musculoskeletal class, and the students will palpate a certain structure. So I'll say, for example, we'll be talking about the bones of the wrist, and so then we'll talk about how can you actually find which bones of the wrist you're palpating. And so I can walk around the room and help them. I'll kind of give them some points like, hey, look for these, and I'll put an image up there of the bones themselves. And then myself and I have a few GTFs that are sometimes in the classroom with me, we'll walk around and start to answer questions, and then students, again, while the classroom's very loud, they're all talking to each other and palpating and trying things, then I can walk around and someone can say, hey, can you come over here because I can't quite figure out if this is my pisiform or not. Can you help me figure that out? So it just allows for a completely different dynamic than you would get if you never crossed the magic line in the front of the room. I think it really feels very intimate and friendly, and people feel very comfortable with that. And then I think that the other opportunity that you have when you're walking around the room is if you've asked a question and you get an answer, but it's just sort of a starter answer, that my goal is to never answer my questions completely on my own. And so, there's a few different techniques to keep yourself from doing that. One is if you get no answer whatsoever, that you must assume that students do know. They're just either not sure what you really asked or not sure if they have the right answer. So let them talk to one another first. And then I can't say I've ever had a time where after turning the question back over to students in groups and saying, just talk to your neighbors. I know you'll figure it out together, even though you haven't figured it out on your own, that they always come up with an answer. It seems to work every time. So I'm happy to keep using that technique until it fails. But also sometimes someone will give an answer, but it's a beginner answer and there's some more content behind that. I think sometimes you can say to another student, hey, can someone follow up on that? I agree with this, but does someone else have another idea, or do you have some more to share? And so you can turn it back over to other students or ask them to explain. Sometimes I ask them just to explain in simple terms, like someone just tell me your gut feeling on what does this mean? And just use whatever language you want. And so they'll start there and I'll say, okay, so someone take that and now turn that into anatomical language. How would we say that now if we were writing the textbook? And just asking students to build on each other's answers, I think can help then to slowly build in the direction that you want them to go and get a more and more sophisticated answer once students have, the ones that maybe at first weren't sure what you were asking, have a chance to really feel confident about it. They kind of keep building on each other.